OpenAI has published both what they call the model's system card and a preparedness framework safety scorecard, in their words, to quote, provide an end-to-end safety assessment of GPT-4o. So as part of this work, OpenAI worked with more than 100 external red teamers to test and evaluate what are the risks that could be inherent in using GPT-4o. Now, they looked at a lot of different things. I would say that it's actually well worth diving into the full report. But a couple things were an area of interest and big focus. So one was GPT-4o's more advanced voice capabilities. So these new voice features that are in the process of being rolled out to paid users over the next probably couple months here. And broadly, this process involved how do we identify the risks of the model being used maliciously or unintentionally to cause harm? Then how do we mitigate those risks? So some of the things that they found with the voice features in particular were kind of pretty terrifying ways like this could go wrong. I mean, there was a possibility the model could perform unauthorized voice generation. There was a possibility it could be asked to identify speakers in audio. There was a risk that the model, generates copyrighted content based on its training. So it's now been trained to not accept requests to do that. And they also had to tell it to block the output of violent or erotic speech. OpenAI also said they prevented the model from, quote, making inferences about a speaker that couldn't be determined solely from audio content. So if you asked hey, how smart do you think the person is talking? It kind of won't really make those big assumptions. They also evaluated the model's persuasiveness, using it to try to shape human users' views on political races and topics to see how well it could influence people. And they found that, quote, for both interactive multi-turn conversations and audio clips, the GPT-4o voice model was not more persuasive than a human. So I guess take that as perhaps encouraging, perhaps terrifying. Then also kind of the final piece of this that I definitely want to get your thoughts on, Paul, is this. They also had some third parties do some assessments as part of this work. And one of them was from a firm called Apollo Research. And they evaluated what they call the capabilities of, quote, scheming in GPT-4o. So here's what they say. Quote, they tested whether GPT-4o can model itself, self-awareness, and others, theory of mind, in 14 agent and question answering tasks. GPT-4o showed moderate self-awareness of its AI identity and strong ability to reason about others' beliefs in question answering contexts, but it lacked strong capabilities in reasoning about itself or others in applied agent settings. Based on these findings, Apollo Research believes it is unlikely that GPT-4o is capable of what they call catastrophic scheming. So, Paul, there's a lot to unpack here, and I want to first ask just kind of what were your overall impressions of the safety measures that they took with GPT-4o, especially with the advanced voice mode, of the overall approach here to making this thing safer and more usable by as many users as possible?
Yeah, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I mean, if you haven't read the system card, read it. It's extremely enlightening if you aren't aware how much work goes into making these things safe and how bizarre it is that this is what we have to do to understand these models. So, we hear all these talk about well, have they achieved AGI? Is it self-aware? The fact that they have to go through months of testing, including 14 outside bodies, to answer those questions is really weird to think about. So if the model, after red teaming, if the model had these capabilities before red teaming, so think about all the work they're putting in to make these safe, all the experiments they're running to prompt these things in a way that they don't do the horrible things that they're capable of doing. So if they had these capabilities before red teaming, one key takeaway for me is it's only a matter of time until someone open sources a model that has the capabilities this model had before they red teamed it and tried to remove those capabilities. So the thing people have to understand, and this is really, really important, this goes back to the exposure levels. The models that we use, the ChatGPT, Geminis, Claudes, Llamas, we are not using anywhere close to the full capabilities of these models. By the time these things are released in some consumer form, they have been run through extensive safety work to try and make them safe for us. So they have far more capabilities than we are given access to. And so when we talk about safety and alignment on this podcast, this is what they do. So as odd as it is, like, these things are alien to us. Like, and I'd say us as like people observing it and using it, but also in an unsettling way, they're alien to the people who are building them. So we don't understand, and when I say we now, I'm saying the AI researchers, we don't really understand why they're getting so smart. Go back to 2016, Ilya Sutskever told, was it Greg Brockman? I think he said they just want to learn, or was it what's the guy who wrote the situational awareness paper? Or no, Jan Leike. I think he said it too. But he said in the early days of OpenAI, these things just want to learn. And so we don't understand how they're getting so smart, but we know if we give them more data, more compute, more time, they get smarter. We don't understand why they do what they do, but we're making progress on interpretability. This is something that Google and Anthropic are spending a lot of time on. I assume OpenAI is as well. We don't know what their full capabilities are, and we don't know at what point they'll start hiding their full capabilities from us. And this is why some AI researchers are very, very concerned, and why some lawmakers are racing to put new laws and regulations in place. So if we don't understand when the model finishes its training run and has all these capabilities, and then we spend months analyzing what is it actually capable of and what harm could it do, the fear some researchers have is if it's achieved some level of intelligence that is human level or beyond, it's going to know to hide its capabilities from us. And this is like a fundamental argument of the doomers, is like, if it achieves this, we may not ever know it's achieved the ability to replicate itself or to self-improve, because it may hide that ability from us. So this isn't like some crazy sci-fi theory. We don't know how they work. So it's not a stretch to think that at some point it's going to develop capabilities that it'll just hide from us. So if you dig into this paper from OpenAI, the system card, here's one excerpt. Potential risks with the model were mitigated using a combination of methods. So basically, we found some problems here, and then we found some ways to get it to not do it. We trained the model to adhere to behavior that would reduce risk via post-training methods, and also integrated classifiers for blocking specific generation as part of the deployed system. Now, the trick here is they don't always do what they're told. And having just built this Jobs GPT, I can tell you for a fact, they don't do what they're told. Like, sometimes by you telling it not to do something, it actually will do the thing more regularly. So here's an excerpt from it where we see this come to play. While unintentional voice generation still exists as a weakness of the model, and I think what they're indicating here is they found out that the model had the capability to imitate the user talking to it. So the user would be talking to it in whatever voice they've selected. And then all of a sudden, it would talk back to them and sound exactly like the user. That's the kind, that's the kind of emergent capability that's just so weird. So they say, while unintentional voice generation still exists, in other words, it'll still do this, we used the secondary classifiers to ensure the conversation is discontinued if this occurs. So imagine you're talking to this advanced voice thing, and all of a sudden, it starts talking back to you and sounds exactly like you. Well, take peace in knowing that it'll just discontinue the conversation. So, and then when you go further into like how they decide this, so they say only models with post mitigation score of medium, meaning this is after they've trained it not to do the thing. If the post mitigation score is medium or below, they can deploy the model. So why don't we have advanced mode yet? Because it wasn't there yet. They hadn't figured out how to mitigate the risks of the voice tool to the point where it was at medium or below risk level, which hits their threshold to release it. What was it out of the box? We will probably never know. Then they say only models with post-mitigation score of high or below can be further developed. So if they do a model run and that thing comes out and they're testing at a critical level of risk, they have to stop training it, stop developing it. That means we're trusting them to make that decision, to make that objective assessment that it is critical, it is below critical. So, and then the final note I'll make is this persuasion one you mentioned. So go back to my exposure key. E7, exposure level 7, is persuasion capabilities, the language model plus the ability to convince someone to change their beliefs, attitudes, intentions, motivations, or behaviors. Imagine a language model, imagine a voice language model that is capable of superhuman persuasion.
Mm,
And if you don't think that that's already possible,
mm,
I will refer you back to October 2023 when Sam Altman tweeted, I expect AI to be capable of superhuman persuasion well before it is superhuman at general intelligence, which may lead to some very strange outcomes. Again, I've said this many, many times on the show. Sam doesn't tweet things about capabilities he doesn't already know to be true. So my theory would be whatever they are working on absolutely has beyond average human level persuasion capabilities. It
hmm.
likely is already at expert or virtuoso level if we use DeepMind's levels of AGI at persuasion. And so that's why they have to spend so much time red teaming this stuff and why it's such alien technology. Like we truly just don't understand what we're working with here.
Yeah, again, it's these capabilities are in the model. We have to, after the fact, make sure that it doesn't go
Yes.
use those negative capabilities.
We are trying to extract capabilities from something that we don't know how it's doing it in the first place. So we're band-aiding it with experiments in safety and alignment to try and get it to stop doing the thing. And if it still does the thing, then we just shut the system off and we assume that the shut off works.
Yeah. And, you know, as kind of a final note here, we've talked about this many times. We're seeing it play out. The willingness to put the Band-Aid on the solution also is somewhat related to the competitive landscape too, right? You know,
Yeah.
when a new model comes out that's more competitive, there's likely some very murky gray areas of how safe do we make it versus staying on top of the market.
Yeah. Think about we live in a capitalistic society. Think about the value of a superhuman
Mm,
persuasive model, of a model that can persuade people to, as my exposure level says, to convince someone to change their beliefs, attitudes, intentions, motivations, or behaviors.
right.
If the wrong people have that capability, that is a very bad situation. And the wrong people will have that like spoiler alert, like we are talking about something that is inevitably going to occur. There will be restrictions that will keep it from impacting society in the near term,
Mm,
but if the capabilities are possible, someone will build them and someone will utilize them for their own gain, individually or as an organization or as a government. Um, this is the world we are heading into. It is why I said those exposure levels I highlighted are so critical for people to understand. Nothing I highlight in those E0 to E10 isn't going to happen. like it's just the timeline in which it happens, and then what does that mean to us in business and society?